As the film opens, Mark Whitacre is shown teaching his son about the pervasive presence of corn in the food industry. He explains that nearly everything people eat contains corn, and that his company, Archer Daniels Midland, ADM, plays a crucial role in this. ADM is involved in the production of various food additives, including lysine, which is an essential additive in the commercial livestock industry. Mark oversees the production of lysine at ADM, but the company is facing significant challenges. Production issues are causing substantial financial losses. The scene transitions to Mark in his office, looking concerned as he goes over the latest financial reports. Suddenly, Mark receives a phone call from Nakawara, an employee at Ajinomoto, a competing company in Japan. Nakawara claims to have inside knowledge about ADM's operations and recent financial losses. He warns Mark that one of ADM's highest-paid employees is actually a mole working for Ajinomoto. This saboteur is injecting a virus into the dextrose used in lysine production, contaminating the entire batch and causing financial losses. Feeling a mix of fear and determination, Mark decides to confront his boss, Mick Andreas. He hurries to Mick's office and quickly explains the phone call and the information he received from Nakawara. He tells Mick that the mole has been sabotaging the plant by injecting a virus into the dextrose, contaminating their lysine production. Mick and Mark discuss the potential fallout from this revelation. If true, ADM's losses could be much worse than they initially thought, and the company's reputation could be at stake. Mick decides they need to take immediate action to verify Nakawara's claims and identify the mole within their organization. They agree to keep the information confidential for now, fearing that any leak could cause panic among employees and investors. Mick instructs Mark to gather more evidence and work discreetly with the company's internal security team to investigate the sabotage claims. Then Mark reveals that ADM is the victim of a saboteur, and that Nakawara is demanding $10 million to reveal the identities of those responsible. This shocking development prompts ADM to seek assistance from the FBI. The company requests that the FBI tap Mark's business line at his home to gather evidence and track any further communications with Nakawara. When FBI agent Brian Shepard arrives at Mark's house to install the recording device, the atmosphere is tense. Mark's wife, Ginger, is clearly uneasy and pushes Mark to reveal the full extent of the situation to the agent. Ginger's insistence weighs heavily on Mark, and he finally agrees to speak with Brian in private. They step outside to the agent's car, where Mark confides his suspicions that ADM has likely bugged their house, making it unsafe to talk inside. Sitting in the car, Mark reveals a bombshell. ADM has been engaged in price fixing with Japanese and Korean lysine producers. Brian listens in disbelief as Mark details how the companies have been colluding to fix prices, a serious violation of antitrust laws. Mark's confession turns what was initially a case of corporate espionage into a much larger investigation of widespread corporate crime. Brian immediately informs his superiors about ADM's illegal activities. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, the FBI decides to dig deeper into the allegations. They arrange to meet with Mark in person to gather more information and plan their next steps. However, the situation becomes even more complicated when ADM realizes that the FBI has tapped more than just Mark's business line. They suspect that the investigation is broader than initially thought and decide to cease all cooperation with the FBI. The company orders Mark to stop working with Brian, putting him in a precarious position. During this tense period, Mark receives a phone call from Brian. With ADM monitoring his every move, Mark has to be cautious. He pretends to speak to someone else, masking the true nature of the conversation. Mark initially refuses to cooperate with the FBI, insisting to Brian that the price-fixing activities at ADM have ceased. However, Brian and another agent, Robert Herndon, confront him in a hotel, pressing him for the truth. Under intense pressure, Mark admits that the price-fixing is still ongoing. He also confesses that he fabricated the story about the mole and the Japanese extortionist to deflect blame from himself for not delivering the expected results. With his deception exposed, Mark realizes he has little choice but to cooperate with the FBI. He becomes an informant, and when the agents ask why he decided to work with them, Mark explains that he is primarily a biochemist who was pushed into the business side of ADM. It was there he discovered the extent of the company's illegal activities. Initially, he claims he wants to do the right thing, but he later admits his deeper motivation. He hoped to eliminate the other executives at ADM and seize the presidency of the company for himself. Mark begins covertly recording conversations at work and during meetings, providing the FBI with over 200 tapes. He narrates these recordings in a humorous way, adding a layer of levity to his serious task. Proud of his role as an informant, he even shows the wire to his maintenance man at home, joking that he's Agent 0014 because he's twice as smart as James Bond 007. The FBI is pleased with the evidence Mark provides, which includes video recordings of ADM's meetings with Japanese and Korean competitors. These recordings capture the executives discussing and coordinating price-fixing schemes. While the FBI is confident in the strength of the case, they face a tougher challenge convincing the Justice Department. After 2 years of diligent work fueled by Mark's invaluable evidence, the FBI stages a massive raid on ADM, meticulously seizing files and computers to gather critical information. To deflect suspicion away from himself as the informant, Mark arranges to be confronted by the FBI in a restaurant where he is having a meal with fellow executive Terry. This calculated move helps maintain his cover while allowing the FBI to advise him on the next steps. During the restaurant encounter, the FBI agents instruct Mark to disclose his cooperation with the government to his company and to obtain his own legal representation instead of relying on a company-provided lawyer. This advice is crucial, as it ensures that Mark's interests will be independently protected throughout the legal process. Following the raid, Brian, one of the FBI agents, discovers that Mark had compromised the operation by tipping off his secretary and 2 colleagues. Despite this breach, the FBI decides to proceed with the case, recognizing the significant evidence Mark has already contributed and the overall importance of dismantling the corrupt practices within ADM. The morning after the raid, Mark initially accepts a company lawyer. This attorney spends the entire day with him, listening attentively as Mark recounts his experiences and the pivotal role he played as an informant. Realizing the complexity and potential conflicts of interest, the company lawyer advises Mark to retain his own attorney to better navigate the legal challenges ahead. Together they then inform several ADM executives of Mark's cooperation with the FBI, a revelation that sends shockwaves through the company. After the FBI raid, Mark Whitacre's story begins to unravel, leading to significant fallout for him and his family. Shunned by the corporate community, they find themselves isolated and under intense scrutiny. Mark's new legal counsel is astounded by his story and advises him to remain silent about the case. Despite this advice, details of the investigation leak to the Wall Street Journal, intensifying the media frenzy surrounding Mark. As Mark continues to meet with FBI agents Brian Shepard and Robert Herndon, he makes a shocking confession. He admits to taking kickbacks for several years, though the exact amount he embezzled remains unclear due to his ever-changing accounts. Ultimately, he claims the figure is over $11 million. In truth, Mark had orchestrated a scheme where a colleague set up a shell company to send bogus invoices to ADM, which the company then paid. The film leaves the mechanics of this scheme ambiguous, likely because Mark himself never fully explained it. This revelation results in Mark losing his immunity deal with the FBI. Confronted with concrete evidence of his embezzlement, Mark's behavior becomes increasingly erratic. It becomes evident that he is suffering from bipolar disorder, a diagnosis that will later play a crucial role in his defense. Further unraveling his credibility, it is revealed that Mark's story of being adopted by a wealthy man as a child is entirely fabricated. Desperate to gain public sympathy, Mark stages a fake kidnapping attempt and continues to speak to the media against the advice of his attorneys. He parts ways with his legal counsel when they refuse to file a lawsuit against Brian Shepard for alleged assault and when Mark rejects a plea bargain offering 3 to 5 years in prison. His new attorney, portrayed as an unscrupulous ambulance chaser, confronts the FBI with dubious evidence that Brian assaulted Mark with a suitcase. To support this claim, Mark forges a letter from his psychiatrist, but the attempt is quickly seen through. In a tense confrontation, Brian confronts Mark, asking why he continues to lie. Mark, visibly distressed, admits that he doesn't know why he can't stop lying and suggests that he should return to the hospital. The film flashes forward to Mark Whitacre's sentencing, marking a pivotal moment in his tumultuous journey. Standing before the judge, Mark delivers a rambling statement, admitting that he is now on medication to manage his bipolar disorder. Despite this, the judge finds no direct connection between his mental health condition and the numerous counts of fraud he committed. Consequently, Mark is sentenced to nearly 9 years in prison, a term 3 times longer than those served by the executives his tapes helped convict. Throughout his incarceration, Mark petitions for a presidential pardon with the assistance of Agent Robert Herndon. In his petition, Mark admits that he embezzled money as a form of severance, fearing he would lose his job at ADM due to his role as an informant. Additionally, it is suggested that Mark embezzled funds to recoup money he lost to a Nigerian advance fee fraud scheme. Despite these explanations, the pardon is denied. However, the government acknowledges that Mark's evidence was crucial in one of the largest price-fixing cases in history, leading to the collection of millions in fines. Were it not for his fraudulent activities, Mark might have been regarded as a hero for his whistleblowing efforts. In the final scene, Mark is released from prison and is warmly greeted by his wife, Ginger. The viewers learn that Mark has managed to rebuild his life post-incarceration and is now the chief operating officer of Cypress Systems,